The second day arrived with heavy clouds covering the academy. Daeho woke up thinking about the strange footage from yesterday. The images of humans running through mud while explosions happened around them stayed in his mind. He could not understand why they did not retreat like any smart warrior would. Dope breakfast. The dining hall was quieter than usual. Most cadets picked at their food while talking in whispers about what they had seen. Woojin sat across from Daeho with a worried expression on his face. Do you think all humans fight like that? He asked. The ones we saw yesterday seemed crazy. They kept going forward even when they were dying. Daeho shook his head slowly. I do not know. But we will see more today, Commander Veltar said. There are many more recordings. The morning classes felt longer than usual. Physical training seemed pointless after watching humans fight with such basic equipment. Tactical studies felt too clean and organized compared to the messy battles they had witnessed. Even weapons practice with advanced energy rifles felt strange when humans used simple metal weapons. After lunch, the cadets filed into the viewing chamber again. Everyone was nervous about what they would see today. Commander Veltar stood before the giant screen with a serious expression on his blue face. Today, we will see footage from what humans call World War II, he said. This was an even larger conflict that happened about 30 years after the First War. The scale of destruction was much greater. The lights dimmed and the screen came alive with new images. These were clearer than yesterday's footage. The cadets could see the humans' faces more clearly. They looked young and scared, but determined. The first battle shown was called Stalingrad. The cadets watched as humans fought in a destroyed city. Buildings were broken and burning. The streets were full of rubble and bodies. But the humans kept fighting from house to house. A young started crying as she watched. She was from the peaceful forest world of Verdania, where conflicts were solved by talking. Her people had not fought a real war in over 1,000 years. They are not retreating, she whispered. Even when they are dying, they are not retreating. The footage showed humans using broken buildings as cover. They scavenged weapons from dead enemies. They ate whatever food they could find. They slept in holes in the ground. Yet they never gave up defending their city. Janae raised her webbed hand. Commander, why do they not surrender? She asked. On my world, when a battle is lost, we surrender and try to negotiate peace. These humans seem to prefer death. Commander Veltar paused the video. Good question, he said. Watch this next part and you will begin to understand. The screen showed human pilots flying damaged aircraft. The planes were on fire and falling apart. But instead of trying to land safely, the pilots flew their burning planes directly into enemy ships. The viewing chamber became completely silent. Every cadet stared at the screen in shock. The concept of deliberately crashing your aircraft into an enemy was beyond their understanding. This is called a kamikaze attack, Commander Veltar explained. When their weapons failed, these humans chose to become weapons themselves. They believed their sacrifice would help their friends win the battle. Dong Hyeon stood up. Suddenly he was a large cadet from the mountain world of Petra. His people were strong, but they valued survival above all else. This is madness, he shouted. No military goal is worth killing yourself. Several other cadets nodded in agreement. They looked disturbed and frightened by what they were seeing. The idea of suicide attacks went against everything they had learned about warfare. But Minho raised his hand quietly. He was a thoughtful cadet who rarely spoke in class. Commander, may I ask something? What makes them fight this way? What drives them to such extremes, Commander? Veltar smiled sadly. That is exactly what we are here to learn. Let us continue watching. The footage moved to show more recent battles from the same war. The cadets saw humans fighting in jungles and deserts. They watched as human medics ran into active combat zones to save wounded soldiers. These medics knew they might die, but they went anyway. One scene showed a human sergeant carrying a wounded friend for many miles through enemy territory. The sergeant was tired and hurt, but he never stopped walking. When reporters asked him later why he risked his life, he said something that shocked the cadets. We do not leave anyone behind, the human said. It was that simple to him. The cadets had never heard such words before. In galactic warfare, when someone was badly wounded, they were often left behind to save the rest of the unit. It was logical and practical, but humans seemed to think differently. More footage showed human soldiers sharing their food with enemy prisoners. Even when they had very little to eat, they gave medical care to wounded enemies. They treated prisoners with respect and kindness. Yujin shook her head in disbelief. She was known for being very logical and practical. This goes against every rule of warfare. She said, "Why waste resources on enemies? Why risk your mission?" To save strangers. The answer came in the next video. A human commander was asked the same question. His response was simple but powerful, because that is what makes us human, he said. If we stop caring about others, we become no better than animals. As the second day of viewing ended, many cadets looked sick and confused. They had seen things that challenged everything they believed about warfare and survival. The humans fought in ways that seemed impossible. That evening, 12 cadets went to Commander Veltar office. They requested transfers to non-combat roles. The images of human warfare had shaken them too deeply. They could not imagine serving alongside such intense fighter. Stayman was among those who requested transfer. His skin had been pale yellow all day, showing his fear and confusion. "I am not brave enough," he told his friends. "I want to help people, but I cannot throw my life away like those humans do." The common area was much quieter that night. Most cadets sat alone thinking about what they had seen. Some, like Kyung Ho, had completely changed their opinions about humans yesterday. "I thought they were weak and stupid," he said. "Now I think they might be the most dangerous species in the galaxy, not because they are strong, but because they do not fear death." Jin nodded slowly. "I've been thinking about the medics," she said. "They ran toward danger to save lives, even enemy lives. How do they overcome their basic survival instincts?" Borem had been quiet all day, but now she spoke up. "Maybe that is their secret weapon," she suggested. "Maybe their willingness to sacrifice everything makes them stronger than species with natural armor or energy shields." The debates continued late into the night. Some cadets argued that human tactics were wasteful and inefficient. Others began to see a different kind of strength in human determination. Daeho lay in his bed, staring at the ceiling. He kept thinking about the human sergeant who said, "We do not leave anyone behind." Those words meant something important, but he could not fully understand what Wu Jin was having trouble sleeping too. "Do you think we could fight like that?" he asked. "Could we be that brave if we had to?" Daeho thought about the question for a long time. He imagined himself in the situations they had watched today. Could he run through enemy fire to save a friend? Could he keep fighting when everything seemed hopeless? "I do not know," he finally answered honestly, "but I think we are going to find out." The next morning would bring even more shocking footage. The cadets were beginning to understand that humans were not just another species joining the alliance. They were something completely different, something that might change warfare forever. As sleep finally came to the academy, the cadets' dreams were filled with images of humans fighting impossible battles and never giving up. They were starting to realize that strength came in many forms, and humans had discovered something the rest of the galaxy had forgotten. Tomorrow would test their understanding even further. The third morning felt different at the academy. Dark clouds had gathered overhead, and many cadets walked to breakfast with worried faces. The events of the previous 2 days had shaken them deeply. Some cadets had barely slept thinking about the human footage. Daeho noticed that several seats in the dining hall were empty. He counted 12 missing cadets. These were the ones who had requested transfers to non-combat roles after seeing the kamikaze attacks. They could not handle the intensity of human warfare. Boram sat with her food untouched. She stared out the window at the gray sky. "I keep thinking about those medics," she said quietly. "They ran into battle zones to save enemies. Why would anyone risk their life for people trying to kill them?" Myun Woo shook his head. He had been against humans from the beginning, and yesterday footage had made him even more certain. "It is not natural," he said. "Every species has survival instincts. Humans seem to ignore theirs completely." The morning classes passed slowly. Most cadets could not concentrate on their studies. Physical training felt pointless after watching humans fight with such basic equipment. Tactical lessons seemed too clean compared to the messy reality of human warfare. When lunchtime came, many cadets could not eat. They were too nervous about what they would see in the afternoon viewing session. Commander Veltar had warned them that today footage would be the most difficult, yet the viewing chamber felt tense as the cadets filed in. The usual chatter was replaced by nervous silence. Everyone knew that today would push their understanding even further. Commander Veltar stood before the screen with a grave expression. "Today we will see footage from modern human conflicts," he said. "These are battles from their most recent century. The warfare is more intense and the situations more complex. The Lights dimmed and the screen showed urban battlefields. The cadets watched human soldiers fighting in cities where innocent people lived alongside enemy fighters. This was something completely new to them. In galactic warfare, civilians were always evacuated before battles began. It was considered barbaric to fight where non-combatants might be hurt, but human conflicts seemed to happen everywhere, including in populated areas. Eugene stared in horror as human soldiers risked their lives to move families to safety. They are endangering their entire mission to save people who are not even fighters, she said. This goes against every tactical rule we learned. The footage showed something even more shocking. Human soldiers were sharing their food and water with enemy prisoners even when their own supplies were running low. They gave medical treatment to wounded enemies with the same care they gave their own troops. Jae-sung could not believe what he was seeing. He came from the advanced world of Cybertron, where his people used technology to enhance their abilities. Where are their fear drugs? He asked. Where are their emotion suppressors? How do they function with such strong feelings during battle, Commander? Veltar paused the video to explain they do not suppress their emotions. Humans use their feelings as fuel. Love for families, loyalty to friends, anger at unfairness. These emotions make them stronger, not weaker. This concept was completely foreign to the cadets. Most galactic species use technology or training to reduce emotions during combat. Feelings were seen as weaknesses that could get soldiers killed. The footage continued, showing human soldiers adapting to any environment. They fought in frozen mountains, scorching deserts, thick jungles, and flooded cities. They changed their tactics based on weather, terrain, and enemy behavior. What amazed the cadets was how humans modified their equipment and strategies on the spot. When standard weapons did not work, they created new ones from available materials. When normal tactics failed, they invented new approaches immediately. Zongmin was fascinated by this adaptability. He came from the intellectual world of Sophia, where his people prized logical thinking. They do not just follow orders, he observed. They think, they adapt, they overcome. Each human soldier acts like a small commander. But the breaking point came when they watched footage of human soldiers in a completely hopeless situation. The scene showed a small group surrounded by enemies with no ammunition left and no chance of rescue. Any logical species would surrender at this point, Commander Veltar said quietly. Watch what these humans do instead. The surrounded soldiers used their last moments to send messages to their families. They told jokes to keep each other calm. They shared their final water with wounded comrades. Instead of begging for mercy, they prepared to fight to the end. The viewing chamber became completely silent. Many cadets started crying as they watched these humans face certain death with dignity and courage, even in their final moments. They thought about others before themselves. That was the moment when many cadets reached their breaking point. 18 more submitted requests for transfer that evening. They could not imagine themselves in such situations. They were not ready for the total commitment that humans showed. The common area was eerily quiet that night. Most cadets sat alone, processing what they had witnessed. The usual laughter and conversation were replaced by worried whispers and uncomfortable silence. Ging Ho sat in a corner staring at his hands. He had always dreamed of becoming a great military leader, but now he questioned everything. I do not think I am brave enough to serve beside humans, he admitted to his friends. What if I run when they need me? Most what if I cannot match their courage. Min's skin had been gray all day, showing his deep distress. These humans are not just soldiers, he said. They are something else entirely. They fight like every battle is the most important thing in the universe. Young had been crying on and off since the viewing ended. How do they do it? She asked. How do they overcome the fear of death to protect others? I cannot even imagine being that brave. Some cadets began to understand that human warfare was about more than just fighting. It was about protecting others at any cost. It was about loyalty that went beyond logic. It was about courage that came from the heart, not the mind. Jin had been thinking deeply about what she had seen. I understand now, she said slowly. They do not fight for glory or conquest. They fight because they believe some things are worth dying for. Discussions continued late into the night. Some cadets argued that human methods were too costly in lives. Others began to see a different kind of wisdom in human determination. Daeho found himself torn between fear and admiration. The humans were terrifying in their total commitment, but also inspiring in their dedication to others. He wondered if he could ever be that brave. Wu Jin was having similar thoughts. What if we are the ones who are wrong? He asked quietly. What if caring more about others than yourself is actually the strongest thing you can do? The academy felt different now. Half the cadets were preparing to leave military service. They had seen what real warfare looked like and decided they were not ready for that level of commitment. But the other half were beginning to understand something important about strength and courage. They were starting to see that humans had discovered something the rest of the galaxy had forgotten. As the night grew late, the cadets finally went to their rooms. But sleep did not come easily. Their dreams were filled with images of humans fighting impossible battles and never giving up. They were beginning to realize that tomorrow would bring even more challenges to their understanding. The fourth day would show them the different side of human warfare, but they did not know if they were ready for more revelations about these strange new allies from the distant world called Earth. The morning sun of Zentara Prime cast long shadows across the Galactic Military Academy. The silver buildings stretched high into the purple sky like giant metal trees. The academy was home to the best young warriors from across the galaxy. Each species sent their strongest and smartest children to learn the art of war. Deho walked through the main corridor with his best friend Wu Jin. Both were excited about today. Deho was from the planet Zephyr, where his people had pale green skin and could jump very high. Wu Jin came from Crystal World, where his people had shiny crystal formations growing from their arms that could create light. Today was special because Earth had finally joined the Galactic Alliance after thousands of years of watching from far away. The humans were finally considered ready to be part of the bigger galaxy. The first group of human cadets would arrive at the academy in just 3 days. Commander Veltar stood at the front of the main briefing room. He was very tall with blue skin and 4 arms. His species, the Altarians, were known for being wise and fair. He looked at the 60 young cadets sitting in neat rows before him. These were the best and brightest from 30 different worlds. The cadets came in many shapes and sizes. Some had scales like reptiles, others had fur like mammals, a few glowed with inner light. Some could breathe underwater, while others could survive in the cold emptiness of space. But they all had one thing in common: they were here to become warriors. Commander Veltar raised one of his 4 hands for silence. The room became quiet immediately. When the commander spoke, everyone listened. His voice was deep and carried well across the large room. Today we welcome news about our newest allies, he said. The Alliance Council has accepted Earth into our brotherhood. Their first cadets will join us very soon. A murmur ran through the room. Many cadets had heard about Earth, but few knew much about it. The planet was far away from the main space lanes. Humans had only recently discovered how to travel faster than light. Most species had mastered this technology thousands of years ago. Janae raised her webbed hand. She was from the ocean world of Nereid, where her people lived underwater. Her skin was blue-green and she could breathe both air and water. Commander, what makes humans special? She asked. They seem so primitive compared to other species. The room filled with quiet laughter. Many cadets agreed. With Janae, humans seemed weak and backward compared to most Alliance species. They had no natural armor like the rock people of Granite. They could not phase through walls like the ghost people of Phantom. They could not even survive in space without bulky. Sichinwu nodded his head. He was from the desert planet Eridas, where his people could survive without water for months. His skin was tough like leather and his eyes could see in complete darkness. I have read their files, he said. Humans are very weak. They cannot breathe underwater. They cannot survive extreme heat or cold. They need machines for everything. How can they help us in Warboran disagreed. She was one of the few female cadets who loved strategy and tactics. Her people from the forest world of Verdania were excellent at planning and thinking ahead. Maybe they have something we cannot see, she said. The Alliance does not accept new members without good reason, but even Bo-Ram sounded unsure as she spoke the truth. Was that most cadets thought humans were a mistake? They could not understand why the Alliance Council would want such weak creatures as allies. Commander Veltar smiled in a way that made the cadets curious. He had seen this reaction before. Every Time a new species joined the Alliance, the other members doubted them at first. That is exactly why we are having this special class, he said. The Alliance Council wants you to understand what makes each species unique before you serve beside them. He walked to the center of the room, where a large screen descended from the ceiling. Tomorrow, we will watch recordings from Earth. We will see their military conflicts and learn how they fight. The cadets looked at each other with interest. Military recordings were always exciting. They loved to study how different species fought in battle. Each had their own style. The bird people of aerial fought from the sky. The mole people of underground fought from below. The energy beings of plasma fought with pure light. That evening, the cadets gathered in their common area. This was where they relaxed after classes. The room had comfortable seats and large windows that looked out at the stars. Many different conversations started about the Humanstayman. Sat with his friends. He was from the world of Chameleon, where his people could change colors to blend into their surroundings. His skin was currently a nervous yellow color. Why do you think they accepted humans? He asked. Maybe they have secret weapons we do not know about. Kyung Ho laughed. He was much larger than the other cadets coming from the mountain world of Petra. His people were very strong and could lift heavy rocks. Secret weapons, he said. If humans had powerful weapons, they would have conquered other worlds by now. Instead, they are still stuck on one small planet. Jin looked up from the book she was reading. She was from the ice world of Frozen, where her people could survive in temperatures that would kill most others. Maybe their weapons are not physical, she suggested. Maybe they have strong minds or special abilities. The discussion continued for hours. Some cadets thought humans might be very smart. Others wondered if they had discovered some new type of energy. Most agreed that humans must have something special, or the Alliance would not have accepted them. As the night grew late, the cadets began to return to their rooms. Tomorrow would bring answers to their questions. They would finally see what made humans worthy of joining the greatest military alliance in the Galaxy. Ho lay in his bed looking out at the stars. Through his window he could see Earth somewhere in the darkness. It was hard to believe that such a small, distant world could produce warriors worthy of the Alliance. Wujin was in the next bed, still talking about the humans. Do you think they will be our friends? He asked. Or will they be strange and scary? Ho thought about this question for a long time. He had always been curious about other species. The academy was full of creatures that would have seemed impossible on his homeworld, but they had all become friends and allies. I think they will be interesting, he finally said. Tomorrow, we will start to understand them. The next morning came quickly. The cadets followed their normal routine. Physical training came first. They ran around the academy grounds, jumping over obstacles and climbing walls. Each species used their natural abilities. Daeho could jump much higher than most others. Wu Jin could light up dark areas with his crystal formations. After breakfast came tactical studies. They learned about different battle formations and strategies. Then came weapons training, where they practiced with energy rifles and plasma swords. Every cadet was expected to master these basic weapons, but today felt different. Everyone was thinking about the afternoon when they would see the human recordings. Even the instructors seemed excited about the special class. After lunch, the cadets filed into the main viewing chamber. This was a large room with comfortable seats and a huge screen that covered the entire front wall. The lights dimmed and Commander Veltar stepped forward. What you are about to see, he said, is real combat footage from human military conflicts. These recordings span the last century of their history. Remember that these are real events. Real humans died in these battles. The screen came to life, showing grainy black and white images. The cadets leaned forward to get a better look. They were about to discover something that would change how they saw warfare forever. The first video showed something called World War I. The images were unclear, but showed humans running across muddy fields. Explosions happened all around them. The cadets watched in confusion as the humans kept moving forward even when their friends fell down. Why do they not retreat? Whispered Taemin. His skin had turned pale with shock. Any smart species would fall back and make a new plan, but the humans on the screen did not retreat. They kept advancing toward the enemy. Even when the situation looked hopeless, they continued forward. When their weapons broke, they picked up new ones. When their friends were hurt, they carried them to safety. The cadets had never seen anything like this. In galactic warfare, when things went wrong, soldiers retreated to fight another day. Survival was more important than any single battle. But these humans seemed to think Differently, the footage continued showing more battles from this great war. The humans fought in terrible conditions with primitive weapons. They had no energy shields or advanced armor, just metal helmets and simple clothes, yet they kept fighting as. The first day of viewing ended. The cadets sat in stunned silence. What they had seen challenged everything they thought they knew about warfare. These humans were not just primitive, they were something else entirely, something that made no sense, but was somehow very powerful. The viewing chamber slowly emptied as cadets returned to their rooms, but the images stayed in their minds. These humans fought like no other species in the galaxy. They seemed to have something that could not be measured or understood. Tomorrow would bring more footage and more questions about these strange new allies from the distant world called Earth. The fourth day brought clearer skies to the academy, but the mood among the cadets remained heavy. 30 cadets had now requested transfers to non-combat roles. The viewing chamber that had once held 60 eager students now felt half empty. Daeho sat with the remaining cadets, feeling uncertain about everything he had believed about warfare. The past 3 days had shown him that humans fought in ways that seemed impossible, yet somehow worked. Commander Veltar entered the viewing chamber with a different expression today. Instead of the grave, serious look he had worn before, he seemed almost hopeful. "Today we will see something different," he announced. "We will hear from the humans themselves." The screen came alive, not with battle footage, but with interviews. The cadets watched as human veterans sat in comfortable chairs talking about their experiences. These were the soldiers who had survived the battles they had been watching. A grizzled old human with scars on his face spoke first. "We fight because someone has to," he said simply. "We fight so our children do not have to face the same dangers. We fight because the alternative is worse than death." The cadets listened carefully, trying to understand this mindset. Most galactic species fought to expand territory or gain resources, but this human spoke about fighting to protect others from having to fight. Another human appeared on screen. This was a female pilot who had flown dangerous missions. Her aircraft had been damaged many times, but she had always brought her crew home safely. "Fear is natural," she explained. "Every human soldier feels afraid, but we do our duty anyway. That is what courage means. It is not the absence of fear, but taking action despite being afraid." This was a revelation to many cadets. They had always thought courage meant not being scared, but humans seemed to define it differently. They acknowledged fear, but acted anyway. The footage showed human peacekeepers working in war-torn areas. Instead of just fighting, they were building schools and hospitals. They provided clean water to desperate populations. They protected refugees from all sides of conflict. Shijin found herself fascinated by these scenes. She had been considering a transfer, but now she was thinking differently. They do not just destroy, she observed, they also create and protect. They use their strength to help the weak. Commander Veltar showed them footage of human military training. The cadets watched as human recruits were pushed to their physical and mental limits, but this was not done to make them cruel. It was to prepare them for the harsh realities they would face. Humans train harder than any other species, Commander Veltar explained. They practice in the worst possible conditions because they know that in real combat failure means death, not just for them, but for those they swore to protect. The cadets saw human soldiers training in Arctic cold desert heat and underwater environments. They practiced fighting while exhausted, hungry, and scared. Most importantly, they learned to work together as a team. What struck the cadets most was the bonds between human soldiers. These relationships seemed stronger than family ties. They called each other brothers and sisters even when they came from different backgrounds. One interview showed a human medic explaining why he ran into danger to save others. "When you train together and fight together, they become more than friends," he said. "They become part of your soul. You cannot leave part of your soul behind." The footage revealed something else the cadets had not expected. Human soldiers were not mindless killers. They were intelligent, adaptive, and creative. They solved problems in ways that no other species had tried. A human engineer explained how his unit had built a bridge across a river using only scrap materials. "We did not have the right equipment," he said, "so we made what we needed from what we had." Humans do not accept impossible situations. The cadets watched as human forces overcame incredible odds through determination and innovation. When conventional weapons failed, they improvised new ones. When standard tactics did not work, they created new strategies. Emilia Talibelrum was amazed. By this flexibility, they do not just follow rules, she said. They understand the purpose behind rules and adapt when necessary. Each human soldier can think and decide independently. The interviews revealed the human concept of leadership under pressure. Human officers made split-second decisions that saved lives. They took full responsibility for their soldiers' safety, even when it meant sacrificing their own chances of survival. Commander Veltar showed them footage of human special forces operating behind enemy lines. These soldiers worked alone for months with no support and no guarantee of rescue. They completed impossible missions through sheer determination, but what impressed the cadets most was how humans treated their enemies. Even in the worst situations, they followed rules of war even when their opponents did not. They showed mercy when they could have been cruel. A human prisoner of war spoke about his experience. I was captured and tortured, he said, but I remembered that how I acted would reflect on all humans. I tried to show them that we were better than our worst impulses. As the fourth day ended, the cadets sat in thoughtful silence. Instead of feeling horror at human brutality, they were beginning to understand something deeper. These humans were not savage beasts. They were thinking, feeling beings who had chosen to be warriors. That evening, the discussions in the common area were different from previous nights. Instead of fear and confusion, there was curiosity and respect. Some cadets were beginning to see human warfare as something noble. Sung Min spoke first. I think I understand now, he said. Humans are not just fighting machines, they are protectors. They have decided that some things are worth any sacrifice. King Ho nodded slowly. Yesterday I thought they were insane. Today I think they might be the sanest species in the galaxy. They have found something worth living for and dying for. Some cadets who had been planning to transfer began to reconsider. Hygiene was among them. I want to learn from them, she said. If they can find that kind of courage, maybe I can too. But others remained convinced that human warfare was too intense for them. Taemin still felt overwhelmed. I respect them completely, he said, but I do not think I can match their commitment. I am not ready to die for strangers. The debates continued, but with less fear and more understanding. The cadets were beginning to see that humans had not discovered some secret weapon or advanced technology. They had found something more powerful. Daeho lay in his bed thinking about the interviews he had heard. The humans spoke about duty, honor, and sacrifice with such conviction. It was clear that these were not empty words but principles they lived by. Wu Jin was also deep in thought. Do you think we could learn to be like them, he asked. Could we develop that kind of dedication to others? Daeho considered the question carefully. I think some of us could, he said, but it would mean changing everything we believe about ourselves and warfare. The academy felt different now. The cadets who remained were no longer just curious about humans. They were beginning to understand that serving alongside them would require a fundamental change in their approach to military service. Tomorrow would bring the final day of viewing. They would see humans working with alien allies for the first time. This would help them understand what it might be like to fight beside these incredible warriors. As sleep finally came, the cadets' dreams were filled with images of humans not just as fighters but as protectors. They were starting to realize that true strength came from the willingness to sacrifice everything for others. The fifth day would show them humans in a new light, working with other species and proving that their way of warfare could bring different peoples together in common cause. The fifth day focused on human military success stories. The cadets watched as human forces overcame impossible odds through determination and creativity. They saw small human units defeating much larger enemy forces through superior tactics and unbreakable will. One particular battle showed human Marines holding a strategic position against overwhelming odds. When asked later why they didn't retreat, their commander simply said, "Retreat wasn't an option. Too many lives depended on us holding that ground." The footage revealed something the cadets hadn't expected: human innovation under pressure. When conventional weapons failed, humans improvised new ones. When standard tactics didn't work, they invented new strategies on the spot. When their equipment broke, they repaired it with whatever materials they could find. Sung-min, a cadet from The intellectual world of Sophia was amazed by human adaptability. They don't just follow orders, he realized. They think, they adapt, they overcome. Each human soldier is like a small commander, capable of independent decision-making. The cadets watched human special forces operating deep behind enemy lines. With no support, no backup, and no guarantee of rescue. These soldiers completed their missions through sheer determination and resourcefulness, but what impressed the cadets most was human leadership under pressure. They saw human officers making split-second decisions that saved lives, taking responsibility for their subordinates' safety even at the cost of their own. Commander Veltar paused the footage to address the class. Tomorrow is your final day of viewing. After that, you must decide whether to continue your military training or transfer to civilian roles. Remember, serving alongside humans will require the same level of commitment they show. Are you prepared for that? That evening, the cadets engaged in the most serious discussions of their lives. Some, like Taeho, had already made up their minds. I can't do it, he said honestly. I'm not brave enough to die for strangers. I want to help people, but not at the cost of my own life. Others, like Bioram, saw inspiration in human courage. Maybe we can learn from them, she suggested. Maybe their way of fighting could make us all better soldiers. The debates continued late into the night. Some cadets argued that human tactics were too costly in lives. Others believed that human determination could teach them about true courage. The class was splitting into two distinct groups, those who admired human warriors and those who feared them. The sixth and final day arrived with perfect weather at the academy. The sky was clear blue, and the twin suns of Zentara Prime shone brightly. But the mood among the remaining cadets was serious. They knew that after today they would have to make the most important decision of their lives. Only 29 cadets remained in the program. Half of the original class had chosen to transfer to non-combat roles. The viewing chamber that had once been crowded now felt intimate and focused. Ho walked to breakfast with heavy thoughts. 5 days of watching human warfare had changed everything he believed about military service. He was no longer the same cadet who had mocked human weakness just a week ago. The dining hall conversations were different now. The cadets spoke in quiet, serious tones about duty, sacrifice, and what it meant to be a warrior. They had seen things that challenged every assumption they had ever held. Woo-jin sat across from Daeho with a thoughtful expression. I have been thinking about that human who saved the alien, he said. How do you develop that kind of instant loyalty to someone from a different world? Boram joined their conversation. I think it is because humans see everyone as potential family. She said they do not judge based on appearance or species. They judge based on character and actions. The morning classes felt like a formality now. Physical training reminded them of human soldiers pushing beyond normal limits tactical studies made. Then think about real battles with real consequences. Weapons training felt more serious, knowing they might soon serve alongside the galaxies. Most dedicated warriors. After lunch, the cadets filed into the viewing chamber for the final time. Commander Veltar stood before them with an expression of pride and sadness. He was proud of those who had stayed, but sad for those who had felt forced to leave today. We see the most recent footage available, he announced. This shows humans working with their newest alien allies. These are the partnerships that will shape the future of galactic warfare. The screen came alive with the clearest images yet. This was not historical footage, but recent recordings from active battlefields the cadets watched. As human soldiers fought alongside species they had never seen before. The first battle showed humans cooperating with crystalline beings who could manipulate energy fields. These aliens were incredibly powerful, but fragile. Human soldiers had developed special protective gear to shield their crystal allies during combat. Singmin watched, amazed, as human engineers created new equipment designs in real time. When their crystal allies needed different types of protection, humans invented solutions on the spot using whatever materials they had available. The footage showed human medics learning to treat wounds on species with completely different biology. They studied alien physiology between battles and developed new medical techniques to save lives. Sujin was fascinated by this adaptability. They do not just accept limitations, she observed. When faced with new challenges, they find ways to overcome them. Every obstacle becomes an opportunity to innovate. One particularly moving scene showed a human squad trapped behind enemy lines with several wounded aliens. The humans could have moved faster without their injured allies, but they refused to leave anyone behind. The squad leader made it clear to his troops, "We all go home together," he said, "or none of us go home at all. This is not negotiable." The cadets watched as the humans carried wounded aliens through dangerous territory, sharing their food and water even though supplies were running low. When rescue finally came, the first thing the humans did was ensure their alien comrades received medical attention. Commander Veltar paused the video. "This is what makes humans special," he explained. "It is not their technology or their physical abilities, it is their absolute commitment to others. They have learned that true strength comes from unity." The footage continued, showing humans working with flying species who could only operate in thin atmosphere. Instead of seeing this as a problem, human pilots developed new aircraft that could operate at extreme altitudes. Another scene showed humans cooperating with underground species who were sensitive to light. Human soldiers learned to fight in complete darkness using only sound and touch. They adapted their entire fighting style to accommodate their allies' needs. What amazed the cadets most was how humans maintained their effectiveness while constantly adapting to new situations. They did not just survive these challenges, they thrived on. Thimi Jin had made her decision. During the viewing, "I want to be part of this," she said quietly. "I want to learn how to care about others that much. I want to become someone worth their trust." The final footage showed the most recent battle available. Humans and their alien allies had faced an enemy force 3 times their size. Instead of retreating, they had worked together to create a strategy that used every species' unique abilities. The battle was won not through superior firepower, but through perfect cooperation. Each species contributed something essential to the victory. No one was more important than the others, but together they were unstoppable. As the screen went dark, Commander Veltar faced his students. "For the last time, you have seen what serving with humans really means," he said. "It is not about fighting beside them, it is about becoming part of something greater than yourself." He walked to the center of the room. "In 3 days, the first human cadets will arrive here. Some of you will train with them and eventually serve alongside them. Others will choose different paths. Both choices are honorable." The commander looked at each remaining cadet. "But if you choose to stay, you must understand what you are committing to. You will be expected to show the same dedication to others that humans show. You will be part of a new kind of military service." That evening, the common area was filled with the most important conversations of the cadets' lives. They had to decide not just their careers, but who they wanted to become as individuals. Sitting Ho spoke first. "I thought I wanted to be a great leader," he said. "Now I realize that true leadership means helping others become their best selves. If I stay, I want to learn how to inspire others." The way human commanders Dodeho nodded slowly. "I came here thinking humans were weak," he said. "Now I see they are the